go. This is what I have to ask a question. I know we did receive um some comments that did arrive on time. Are we prepared to? I think I sent it in an email to see if we're prepared to answer any of those comments.
I just finished with mine.
I can't see myself. Oh, sorry. Okay, welcome everyone to our May 5th work session. I am calling this meeting to order. We are going to start with some public. We started a process where the public will have a day and time when they can send questions to us. And we have a variety of people sending questions all together quite frequently, but we have a day and a time for the public to share their questions in time so that the board and administration will be able to gather responses for our work session. So we will go over some of those questions and answer them to the best of our abilities. So we have a few questions from our first community member. This is from Mrs. Kiana Washington. First question. Has the board looked into reducing the number of administrators to save on the budget, perhaps? Yes. So has the board looked into reducing the number of administrators to save on the budget? Dr. Chase, you surely can add. I would say that the board, along with the superintendent and her team, have looked at every line of the budget. If you have something to add to that, Dr. Chase, feel free, or is that okay?
Right. So one of the things I'd like to add to that, and just to reiterate what you said, we know that there's still opportunities to look at the budget. And of course, the budget has not been adopted, therefore it's not final. So there are going to continue to be changes up until when the board has adopted the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dodson-Trun, do you want me to just go through all of the questions, or do you want to read question by question and do the same format?
Because I don't have the list of questions, so I need to know what they are.
Right. So do you want me to read the questions and then answer them? And then
Dr. Chase, that's fine.
So I'll make sure I read them for everyone, because not everyone has the question. So I'll just make sure that that's clear. All right. So the second question reads, is there going to be a posting to hire a CSC, CPSC chairperson to save money instead of paying out that $925 per day to an administrator? And the answer to the question is no, there will not be a posting. The second question is the instructional specialist position really necessary? If so, why does it come with a $1,000 monthly stipend? I'm not exactly sure what position is referred, so I don't want to answer that question until I get a little bit more clarity in terms of what exactly is that position. So the author of the question can definitely send me an email just to clarify so that I can answer that question appropriately. What actual positions were eliminated from the 2020-2021 budget? So on our website, there is a draft proposal of the budget, and the draft proposal does reflect some eliminations, reductions. And so what is proposed, and again, there's no permanency here, and I want to make sure that that is clear. What is proposed thus far is one senior office assistant, two office assistants, one computer operator, data manager, a secretary, two administrator, account clerk position. There is two directors positions. There is also a chair position. We have a position of a chemistry teacher, elementary teacher, math teacher, and 3 teaching assistants. And most of those eliminations really reflect retirements and positions in which we will likely not need to fulfill. The other question asks, why are we budgeting for summer school? Well, we've reduced the budget for summer school because we don't know what the governor is going to issue as an executive order as it relates to summer school. So we're playing it safe, but we did reduce the budget for summer school. I also want the community to know that the district is obligated to provide ESY, and that is all year schooling for some of our students with special needs. They are required by law as a mandate to receive year-round schooling. And so that mandate has not changed as of yet. The other question asks, what is the contingency budget for if school doesn't open in September? Well, we don't really have an answer to that question. We don't know. There isn't necessarily a contingency budget for when school doesn't open in September because we're really banking on the fact that school will open in fall. It may not open in the fashion that we're accustomed to school opening, but we believe there will be a school opening, and that can be further conversation that we can have with the school board. I believe this is the last question, or maybe not, second to the last question. The question reads, or the statement, it's not a question, the statement reads, I want a list of positions that were eliminated through reduction in force or retirement. It sort of duplicates the question that I've already answered as it relates to eliminations. And I told you those eliminations were a result of retirements. How many, the last question, I believe. All right. Another question reads, how many administrators do we have budgeted for 1,585 students in the 2020-2021 school year? I do know we have more than 1,500 kids in our school district, but what we have budgeted to date, as of right now, we have budgeted for principals, we have budgeted assistant principals, we have a dean budgeted, we have directors budgeted, we also have one of the directors who's budgeted under ECP grant funds, we also have a CSC chairperson budgeted, and we also have a supervisor for transportation budgeted. I want to go into the other question. I believe that is it for that particular community member. Am I correct, Ms. Darden-Citron?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. All right. The other question comes from a community member, Katie McGee. And Katie McGee asks, first question, I have some questions for the board before their work session tomorrow. Now that the budget and the Board of Education trustee election is set for June 9th, what is the plan for how that will happen? Do you have a time limit set for communications and getting the ballots to us? For example, when should we expect to receive the absentee ballots, the mailed newsletter? What other forms of communication will there be regarding budget? In addition to the district's website and mailed newsletter, I urge the use of school messenger, social media, GSCDs, email database to direct people to the site to view the proposed budget and future presentations about the budget and about the vote date, along with the procedure for voting. So there were quite a few questions within that particular statement from Ms. McGee. You did ask about, hold on, let me just make sure that I have. All right, so the question is, now that it's set for June 9th, what's the plan for how that will happen? Well, I have to tell you, Ms. McGee, I think we're all trying to figure out the plan right now. As you know, the governor just issued an executive order for school districts to issue absentee ballots to community members for a budget vote that is set for June 9th. Same goes for the board trustee elections. We're just trying to get clarification as to the process by which we will do this. But I will say this to you. We're hoping to have some information to our community members on our website as soon as possible. The hope is that we'll have it by the end of the week once we get further clarification. And we're still waiting for some information from our attorneys because we want to make sure that we're giving you all the correct information. Do you have a timeline set for communications and how to get the ballots to us? Well, we're actually working on a timeline. We have a tentative timeline. I don't want to speak to that quite yet, simply because it's not carved in stone and we're sort of still figuring this out with our attorneys. And once we have factual information, we will come back to the community to let you know. And yes, Ms. McGee, we will use School Messenger, we will use social media, and we'll use all of our communication modalities to communicate to everyone what the timeline is, where they can find it, and how they can find it. You asked about when we receive absentee ballots. That is still in the works in terms of the when. The mailed newsletters were communications, it's sort of a quasi subset of that communications committee. Is still working on how we're going to actually send out the newsletter, but we want to make sure that the community has all the information that they'll need to make an informed decision about the budget vote. We're having conversations about possible postcards that will lead you to an electronic version of the newsletter. And we talked about the pros and cons of that. So there's a mix of information in which we're sort of talking about and trying to hash it all out. And we're working with our communications director and our former communications director, Evelyn McCormick. We're also working with other superintendents and other districts in the region. Other districts in the region have been meeting on a regular basis, more so than we ever have, to talk about what we're doing in each other's districts, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. What other forms of communication might there be? I think I shared that already. And in addition to the district's website, mailed newsletter, you encouraged us. I think we've already covered that as well. Am I covered that? Am I covered with Katie McGee? And I believe her last point was about something else relating to the school board. That's not necessarily a question.
Building condition survey?
Yep. So is the building condition survey completed? And when will it be shared with the public? So once it is completed, it will be posted on the website and it will be shared with the public. It is anticipated that we should have a report within the next couple of weeks. And the next question asks, well, what are the next steps in your decision for how to proceed with capital repairs at the mansion and in other school buildings? And the board can chime in on this, but what I can say is that the board is still having conversations as to what those next steps are. And as soon as that information is solidified, they will come back to the community to share aloud. I don't know if any of the board members want to chime in on that particular question.
Sure. I'd like to say that when we had our previous meeting, that we chose which roofing option for the mansion, and we talked about which design we wanted for the security vestibule, with the state funded. The architect mentioned an additional $15,000 worth of repairs, but I don't believe that he had specified that in writing. So I want to see that in writing in our final estimate, at least for the mansion.
Anyone else?
I think that's correct. We're waiting to see the building conditions, and I believe that we have already moved, and Mary could clarify, from one funding source or one, code to another in regards to make some repairs. We just have to really think about what all of us are facing financially in our districts across the state. And figure out what's the best plan to address our aging buildings that still exist even during this time. Okay. All right, so we're finished with that last question. Policy review. So now we haven't this was like, it looks like a copy and paste. I'm assuming the red portion, we're up to the point where the red portion is and Dr. Chase, you'll correct me or not, that the district has taken a look. Is this their, like, is the red wording the board, not the boards, the your teams, or is that the lawyers? So I'm trying to figure out what point we are when we look at this particular policy.
I'm not exactly sure, but as long as it has not been adopted by the board,
Yeah.
I mean, there's still room for amendments and modifications. So one of the things that I'd like to say to Ms. McGee is that we will take your recommendations under advisement. And when that policy comes up or when we revisit it again, we will definitely take your recommendations and your suggestions under advisement.
Yeah, we'll make sure to share it. Like, these questions are shared. Whatever questions we get are shared between the board and the superintendent. So what we'll do is I'm pretty sure that how we look at policy now is usually the administrator will take a look at the policy. If they have any suggestions, they will provide those. The lawyer takes a look at it, and then the board gets it. So I'm pretty sure that Dr. Chase will see whether her team has done their portion, and then whether we moved it on to the lawyers, and then the final stop again is to the board. And that last portion in regards to just board trustees and our meetings, I actually responded to Ms. McGee yesterday, I believe. All right, so we're moving on to, we have our next community member, Patricia Weems. She too had some questions about, a lot of questions and some suggestions in regards to the election, the budget with voting and all sorts of things. I will say there was a couple of things I did respond to. So I did provide her with the address of our interim commissioner of education, Shannon Tahoe. So I did give her that email address, which is actually a public email. And she asks about, in order to have a referendum placed on the ballot, you need to submit petitions for 60 days before the vote. I have asked our lawyers in regards to that, whether through the executive order, was that timeline changed? That timeline was not changed. And so we are sticking that timeline was not changed. So that's where we are. It hasn't changed, and we are gonna follow the law that's still in place now. If anyone wants to place a referendum at this point, they have the time to do so again next year as well. And then again, a lot of Dr. Chase, you can scan it too. I believe a lot of what you answered before in regards to when we'll share a timeline addresses many of these questions here in regards to timeline, as far as with the when you'll receive information about the budget, voting. They are going to be, of course, absentee ballots, and we're all trying to work together to see exactly how we're going to implement that plan.
Right. No, we have been, and we've been actually sorting out, the executive order, and we've been sorting them out with our attorneys, with the regional superintendents. I'm certain the board members have been conversing with other board members around the region and just sort of sorting this out so it can make sense of this for our community, because this is brand new to all of us. And again, no one wants to give out false information. So we want to make sure that we're accurate and that we know exactly what we're talking about as it relates to timelines, realistic timelines. We know that, I know I've heard from some of you in terms of some of the challenges that we might have with our postal system. That's another challenge that continues to come up, and it's been coming up in the entire region, Lower Hudson Valley. I wanted to share with the community that the Lower Hudson Valley Superintendent's Group has submitted a letter to the governor's office expressing our concerns, and it is a multi-bulleted letter with concerns from around the region. And what we found out is that our concerns are very similar to the concerns on Long Island, some of Rockland County, Mid-Hudson Valley concerns as well. And so once we have final information and clarity, we will come back to you, our community, to make sure that you know in a timely manner what the expectations are, as this is new for all of us. I thank the community for their candor and their questions, and most importantly, I thank them for their patience with all of us during this unprecedented time.
I would add to there, I think there is like a collective movement across our state from a variety of organizations such as WESPA, such as NISBA, which is School Board Association, our School Board Association. They've sent letters, our PTAs, PTA, New York State PTA. So there are a lot of groups organized sending their concerns about the timeline and about how we have to implement our budget vote and our election. David.
Skipping back to an earlier comment regarding graduation, that was about policy 7220, I believe, which is scheduled for adoption on this evening's agenda. So it's from the old April batch of policies. Do we want to table it? I mean, she's not actually objecting to it. She's just asking a question about it. Do we want to table it and then change it later if we need to, or do we want to keep it on the agenda?
Excuse me, you're not voting on it this evening. You're voting on it May 26th.
So
okay, so we're good. So we can get back prior to May 26th? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thanks.
You're muted, Antoinette.
Tracy, you're not. Miss Carey, did you have a question after Tracy?
No.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Tracy.
So you talked about the referendums. If it's too late now to submit referendums, could the board make a vote to submit an additional referendum to the ballot? You're muted.
The board has 3 options. Ivy would correct me if I'm wrong, which is either to accept, amend, or deny. But in regards to this, the timeline has exceeded. So for anyone that came in on time, those 3 options, we can follow those 3 options. For anyone that did not come in on timeline, the timeline, it has exceeded. Yes, Tracy.
Muted.
Thanks. I mute myself when I'm not talking, so when I can't unmute again until you give me permission. So have any of the referendums been placed in time or no?
We have one that has been placed on time.
Okay, and when was the deadline for the referendums to be submitted?
Ivy, please.
The date would have been in early April, based on the governor issuing or setting the date for June 9th. So it would be 60 days before the voting is when voter submitted petitions were required to be submitted.
Thank you. And final question, even if a referendum was submitted late, could the board put their own referendum on by a majority vote of the board after that April deadline date?
That I don't know. Ivy, do you know, is that something that we need to ask of our lawyers in regards to education law? I'm not sure.
I believe that the board can add, just like you were adding the proposition onto the ballot for the surplus funds, that you can add whatever proposition you'd like on the ballot. However, it needs to be legally noticed. The legal notice has to be put in next week. So that's why you're adopting the legal notice this evening.
Okay, great. So I'd like to have time at some point in tonight's agenda, I don't know when, to consider adding the referendum that we received. You muted, Antoinette.
I'm sorry. So I'm not sure. We have one referendum that did come on time that we are going to discuss. There is another in this question that we have not received at all?
That, if you're talking about the one that came in April 28th, that one is a late submission. There is no voter submitted petition
time,
that has come in
yeah.
on time. The only proposition is the one that the board voted on back in March, which is again on this legal notice.
Okay, thank
Right,
you.
so I'd like for the board to consider the term limit referendum that we received on, I guess it was April 28th. I don't have the date right in front of me. I'd like for us to consider putting that onto our ballot for this election, June 9th this year. And I don't know what the process is for making that happen, but I'd like for us to talk about it, possibly vote or consensus on it tonight so that it can be included in the legal notice so that it could be submitted by next week.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Ivy. So one, is it that we would get consensus or voting on one, considering it, and then also once if it is passed that we will, yes, consider it, then we'll take a vote on the actual on approving it?
You'd have to come up with the language. I don't know if the language that was submitted is appropriate or too ambiguous to be put on the proposition. So you would need to consult with the school attorney in terms of language if you wanted to adopt something this evening.
Okay, all right, thank you. Tanya, please tell me you're unmuted.
So Ivy, actually, I just want to make sure, because my understanding of when I read the governor's new rules for the elections and the budget and the referendums and everything was that this referendum actually was submitted on time, and you're saying that it wasn't.
Per the school attorney, it was not.
Okay, that was not my reading, but okay. So then we would have to do what Tracy's suggesting, which is that the board would have to discuss it and the board would have to vote on putting it on the ballot.
Correct.
And are there time limits for the board to do that? I'm sorry, you mentioned something about.
Well, the proposition would need to go into the legal notice. I have to get the legal notice out tomorrow so that it's published in a timely fashion because it needs to be published no later than May 12th.
Okay.
And since nominating petitions are due May 11th, we're trying to get it published May 11th. So at least there's that 1 day's worth notice because I don't think I can get it in any earlier than that.
Got it.
The other consideration, if I'm correct, Ivy, is that we need to make sure though that we have the correct language.
Yes.
Would the attorneys be able to provide the correct language if we requested that, or how does that work to get the correct language?
Right now I'm looking I'm looking for it in our board package so that I can see if I can get it to them. Hold on.
I think, was it sent to, or I don't know if Ivy or Antoinette, no, was that referendum or that submission sent to our attorneys or no?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Okay, so they're already familiar with it. And I do believe that they're not at our meeting, but they would be available tonight, so.
Yeah, I just don't know if they will be able to turn it around that quickly, but I'm going to reach out to them.
Okay, cool, thank you.
All right. Terry, your hand is raised. Terry? All right, Terry.
Yes, no, I'm here, yeah. First thing, I didn't notice if the electronic raising of the hand, thing is not on today, but anyway. So I'm a little confused here. So with regard to this proposed referendum, why are we having the attorney look at it if the board has not yet decided that they want to put it on?
I guess for me, if the language has to be in a particular way, where? Okay.
Probably was working off a phone.
I think fell over.
Okay. If the language I guess for me, and anybody could chime in, I'm just thinking we would want to look at something and to review it with the right language. Like, like, would it make sense for us to take a look and vote on something if it's not the proper way? I think we would want to see how the language should actually be. That's what I was thinking. Terry.
Well, I understand that. That's clear to me what you're thinking, but I still think that's putting the cart before the horse, because we don't even know if we have consensus that we want it on the agenda.
Okay.
And I personally, I mean, and Tracy brought up earlier, she said she wants to discuss this at some point in the meeting, which is fine with me, obviously. I mean, we can consider that under new business.
Yeah.
But we spent a lot of time discussing that, and I just wasn't sure if we had indeed had consensus on that.
Okay, so yes, Tracy.
He's muted.
Sorry, I keep muting myself because I have kids running around. So I absolutely agree. I think we should just take a consensus now, and if there's not enough people to agree with that, then the lawyers we don't need to bother them. You know what I mean?
Okay, so who would like to? Let me go back here. Terry.
Are we just not paying attention to the agenda? I'm just curious because, again, whenever we bring up new things, we have it under new business. I mean, we do have an agenda.
We can move it to new business, but this speaks to my point again, right? So we'll get to new business, and that's at the end of our meeting. If for some reason consensus is yes, we want to review it, we will then be at the point to the end of our meeting and having to wait to hear feedback from the lawyers before we make a decision. Either way, I'm gonna stick to the agenda. We're gonna wait for new business and kind of go from there.
Antoinette, can I suggest then that you ask the lawyers?
I've already sent an email to them.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
All right. I mean, text. All right. So with statements from the public being completed, can I get Dr. Chase? Are you unmuted? There you go.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
All righty. So, Ms. Darden-Cintron, I just want to share with the public before we go off into executive session that both the school board and the school administration want to thank the community for their input with our draft budget that we've posted. We've heard from so many different people in different modalities. Not everyone sent an email. Some people called directly. Some people asked to meet with us. And we just appreciate the sentiments that's coming from the community. And we appreciate the board representing the community and sharing their sentiments during the entire budget process. And we want people to know that we're not finished yet. We hear their concerns, we share their concerns, we share their sentiments, and we understand that these concerns are not just here in Greenburgh, but throughout the state of New York, I dare say even throughout the nation. And so the budget has not been adopted because there are people who believe that it has been adopted. We want everyone to know that we continue to work on the budget. We continue to work on a budget that reflects the needs of our students and that does not burden our taxpayers. That's the last thing we want to do. You are our constituents and you are our partners, and we don't want to burden you all. But we're continuing to have these conversations. And when the budget is adopted, we will spell out to the world and splash out to everyone that, we have a budget that we believe reflects the comments that have been coming in to the board, to the administration, that the board has shared with us, some community sentiments, and we'll make sure that it does reflect everyone's concerns and comments. And we hope to have that for you within the next couple of weeks. And even before then, I would dare say, I wouldn't say next couple of weeks, but even before then. So I just want the community to be assured that we're still working and we're still trying to narrow down the budget where we don't take away from kids. I don't think anybody in this community wants to take away from children. We want to meet the kids' needs. We know the kids are going to have different types of needs when they come back to school. And so we're cognizant of that. And we're also cognizant of the financial concerns that exist in our community, that exist in our world, and we are taking all of those things into consideration. So I just want to thank the community again for their questions, for their candor, for their honesty, and their willingness to share with all of us their concerns and their feelings. And we want them to know the school board and the administration hears them. Thank you.
Yes, your leader. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Chase, for that. I'm sorry. Is there a motion to go into, well, let me say this. Does anybody have anything else? Okay. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss employment history of particular persons?
So moved.
Can
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. We are going into executive session. Okay, so. All right, guys, with that, okay.
You could
All
make
right.
the motion.
Yes, can I get, well, I thought we'd like to get that on camera, no?
No, we don't usually.
Not from
Okay, can I have a motion to go into open session?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. We are now back in open session. Okay, let's get this.
Okay.
Okay. Ivy, I'm just gonna go through each individual. I don't have the group. Yeah, I'm going through each individual one. Okay.
Yes.
All right, where are we at? Let's see. All right, Steve, we're ready. Okay. All right, so we are now at, go back up a little bit. We are at personnel instructional, rescission of extracurricular activities for spring sports. Any questions on that? Or any questions on the amendment for extracurricular activities? The amendment for the spelling bee coordinator? Dr. Chase, it looks like you have a question or you wanted to say something.
Is this typically done in closed session? That part of the meeting?
Well, yes, that's true. Well, I usually still have to go through them or, okay, I'm sorry. Let me skip. My apologies. Thank you, Dr. Chase. Okay, D, non-instructional, D. No questions on that.
That's also closed session.
Yes, no questions on that. And board action, annual district meeting notice. Any questions or? Okay. Finance, budget code transfers. Any questions? Okay. PP.
Wait, Terry's.
I'm
raising his
sorry,
hand.
Terry.
Mary, if you could just quickly give a short explanation on each of these budget code transfers.
Sure, they're all really pretty much the same. As we've done before, we're trying to take staff out of generic budget codes and put them into department specific. So as an example, the first one is moving a phys ed teacher from the generic code at Jackson to a department and building specific department code.
Okay. All right, that's sufficient for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. PPS committee recommendations. Okay. Anything on board action? Anything on our minutes? Okay. Board policy. Any questions?
With board policy, I'd like to know who is designated to perform the duty of I didn't even write the title down, doggone it. Who is designated to perform the duty of the temporary housing and stuff for, oh, shoot. I thought I was so organized.
Are you talking about the board policy 7131 where it says the education of students in temporary housing?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, yes. And I wanted to know who is responsible for that, who coordinates that particular situation that for our students who are, out of district and stuff.
So that is done out of our pupil personnel department.
Anyone in particular have that responsibility, Dr. Chase?
Yes, ma'am. That would be under Jill Post, our director for PPS.
Okay. Miss Carey, was that it?
Yeah, I think pretty much. It's just it was a very long piece that we didn't have this before in our book of procedures. This is something new.
Modified.
Yeah,
It's the education for students of for temporary housing. Do we have that already? I never saw it before.
No, I don't think that's new. That's been around for a while.
I don't think it was called temporary housing at one time. I think they had a different name when you had a homeless liaison and all that.
It's been modified.
Is that the homeless liaison person, or is this someone different?
I think we used to have a homeless liaison person who did that.
I think we do. Don't we have a homeless liaison person?
So all of this work is done out of the Department of Pupil Personnel, and it's all under the umbrella of Pupil Personnel.
A long time ago, we had that position because Sonia Brown was the person that did it. It was a whole different title. So I remember that well. Okay, that's all I had. I just wanted to ask some questions about these new things.
Policies?
Policies.
Okay, so these are policy amendments. Okay, as far as WESPA 2021 budget. Questions, okay. What about the WESPA's 2021 Board of Directors? Okay. Finance Treasurer's Report from March.
Yeah, that needs to be in bigger print because the March 2020 Treasury Report, all of those little teeny tiny figures here is very difficult for old eyes to check on. So I had to use a magnifying glass, and that wasn't very pleasant. Could it be in bigger print, please?
Okay, bigger print.
Is it possible to get that in larger print?
Larger print for the treasurer's report.
Is that possible, Mary?
I will speak with Ms. Madera.
I'm
Look,
asking because sometimes.
Look, I just want it to happen because I want to read it. This way I cannot read it. So it should be done anyway. I don't know why anybody would want figures that small to be read by anybody. They're old or young. So it just needs to be in bigger print, that's all.
All right, Mary, thank you. I know you'll get that to Miss Madeira. Any questions on the finance warrant report? Okay, contract for Benetech Inc. Contract renewal for Miguel Barrios, Creative Services. Contract renewal on Mohegan Park Contractors. Contract renewal on Nick's Electrical Service of New York.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I didn't stop you. A couple of numbers back for Miguel Barrios 8, subject number 8. So what services are we gonna utilize Miguel Barrios for?
Oh, all of our social media services, all of our branding services. We'll need him now for the newsletter, you name it.
So then are we going to be renewing our PR contract? Because that sounds like PR to me, or is there something different?
PR is the written version of it. And we're using half of the PR that we used last year. Miguel does the other portion of it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, where did I leave off? Contract renewal for
I'm sorry. I see Ashley's hand, Antoinette.
Ashley,
Yeah.
and then Tanya.
You're on 10 now, right?
I was just about to go on to 11.
So I have a question on 10. I'm just trying to understand what the difference is, why there's such a high increase on this item.
So this is for Nick's Electric.
Correct.
So it's just the anticipation of needed repairs for next year. We have a lot of repairs needed throughout the district, and we have a lot of things that pop up. So we'd rather be prepared in advance to have the contract approved.
Okay, so you're just anticipating and you're trying to get ahead of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Tanya, you had your hand.
I actually just wanted to go back to 8 and ask whether this will be the company that will be printing the postcards for the budget. No.
No.
Okay. So this is purely PR.
Not PR, but like all the graphic services, the branding, everything you visually pretty much see. The PR does a lot of the contact with the newspapers, the writing of different, items.
Okay.
So Miguel is like the visual.
Got it.
I think I said I was going to contract renewal with WBE Fence Company.
I think Tracy has her hand up.
I have my hand up. Back to number 10 with Nick's Electric, Mary. If we're trying to foresee needing that level of repairs, but if we don't use that, what happens to the rest of the money?
It goes back to the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
For the third time's the charm, contract renewal, WBE Fence Company.
Yeah, same question here. It looks like almost a doubled amount. Are we anticipating that much more fence work?
Again, the board has, right now we're we're doing a RFP or a bid for surveying because there was discussion about fencing in certain property areas. So I'm again anticipating a possible expense in that. And if we don't need it, then it goes back to the general fund.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Carey?
I read somewhere where there was money for a fence around the church. So I think that some of that money, I thought we said we were not going to put a fence up around the church to bar, to fence off the church from the property. I thought we said we weren't going to do
Fence.
Mary, so does the WBE fence, is it directly related to that?
It is related to fencing all of the property, not just the church area that we've discussed. And I actually sent that question to the board if you wanted to proceed with that. But we have other fencing throughout the district that would need to be done.
So we're not fencing off the church over on Juniper Hill Road, right?
The board decision. There was a-
Yeah.
Well, we
I thought we made a decision on that. Why is it?
months ago.
We are surveying the property. The board had asked us to do a survey to
Yeah.
consider securing the property, and that would be fencing it in. A question was sent to the board as to if you wanted to proceed. Yes.
Yeah. In the board packet, I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see.
I'm looking, I know there was something in there about a fence being around the church and something to do with the house, the abandoned house. There was a question whether they wanted to put a fence up around the church or demolish the house or use it.
We did vote to demolish the house.
Yeah, that vote was done. The house part that we voted on, I do remember us wanting,
Are waiting on a surveying RFP and responses to move forward because we can't fence until we have a specific lot line.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President.
use a fence. Okay, yes. So it does say, Dr. Jason, I still think this is a little bit different. Please advise if the board wishes to use the remaining amount on the fence contract to address the property on Pinewood. That's separate from the church. This is off of Pinewood. So my question is with that sounds like we might have gotten.
Madam President, I have it right here. It says we have $43,000 on a purchase order for the fence contractor. Please advise if the board wishes to proceed with fencing the church property, $20,150. I know what I saw.
What's the
Carrie,
date
I'm
on that?
looking at it too, just like you. I'm looking directly at that as well.
And we said we were not going to fence in the church property. We said that months ago. And now all of a sudden it's coming back up again.
So, Miss Carey, I hear you. So we did make a decision on that unless someone else thinks differently. I know that we talked about this before. Yes, David.
I do have a question on that. So if you demolish a house that has a basement, are you leveling it off to such an extent that you don't need to fence that off?
Okay, wait, David, before you go there, we were clear on.
We don't want to fence off right along the line of the edge of the church.
Yes.
That's what we said.
So that's an answer to that one, Dr. Jason. We're not fencing that.
We're clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now, David, I'm gonna come back to you. The other thing it says, please advise if the board wishes to use the remaining amount on the fence contract to address the property on Pinewood. So are we talking about one specific property? Are we talking about what Mary refers to with the RFP, what we talked about, all of the property on Pinewood?
The property on Pinewood, that is a specific property. that you have neighbors that have encroached on the district's property.
To the right, if we're leaving campus, to the right or to the left?
Right.
To the right.
To the right. Go out the back gate.
The very first one?
Couple of them.
Okay.
But you have property along that. So Mr. Falcone got a price to, or an estimate to fence in that area.
I have a question.
Okay, let me finish. So I thought we were so did we do the other part where we needed to get, because the lawyers created a letter and we were waiting on the district to provide, I think they had to do something to get like all the proper addresses. So did that happen already?
I was not involved in that. I mean, the board was going to send a letter.
No, the last time we communicated, I'm not going to look into my email now because I'll get lost from all the other documents that I have open. The letter was shared. We needed the addresses to be able to send the letter that has been created by the lawyers. And from what I remember, we were waiting on the district to do, and I don't even know what it's called. I don't know if it was somehow to get whatever the appropriate addresses so that the letter can be placed and mailed. That's the last place I remember.
I will look, I do not recall that email. I will look back through my emails from you regarding that. As far as even any fence, we still have to wait for the surveyor. It's a matter, the question that you received in a Friday packet is you have money on the fencing contract. Here are options to spend them on.
Okay.
The resolution, what's on the agenda is to set money up so you have a fencing contract for next year. I think you're confusing the two. If the board, you may decide.
I'm not confusing the two. I don't want us to miss the things that was in the packet, because that, like, I don't want us to miss it. That's why I'm just, bringing that part up. I saw what Miss Carey was talking about, and then I saw the other one. I just don't want to miss it because it says please advise. So I wanted to be able to share that. Okay, so as far as this in the packet, they're two separate things. So you're saying whether we have their information or not to say, hey, you're encroaching, sending a letter, you're encroaching on district property. You're saying regardless of that, there is in our agenda to possibly, resolve that with to possibly with that property specifically put a fence up dividing the property line.
Yes. Out of this.
Okay.
Yes.
Talking about
Out of this motion. Okay. Tracy.
which property line are you talking about?
The first one, if you're leaving the back entrance, if you're leaving the back of the school, the first house on your right.
Oh,
And succeeding houses.
I thought there was a fence there. Don't they have their own?
Miss Carey, I didn't hear what you said.
I thought the property had its own fence up. Don't they have their own fence up?
I haven't looked back. I think so, but it still might be too far on the district's property.
Oh, I see. Well, it appears to me that instead of trying to deal with all of these property things, you have a whole lot of stuff that's on this particular a document that I have that needs fixing in the schools. And it would seem to me that you'd like to take that money and use it to fix up whatever needs to be fixed up in the schools, because you sure have a lot of stuff here, and it costs a lot of money. So I hope we'll concentrate on the safety of our students and staff instead of worrying about a church that's not bothering us at all.
Okay, Ms. Carey, we're clear on the church, as far as in the packet, what do we want to do as far as that property and using the remaining amount of the fence contract from 2019, 2020 to make a, to be clear about the property line?
Okay, thank you.
Tracy, is it about this one question that's on the floor?
I don't even know which question was on the floor, but I just have a quick question. Did anyone talk to our neighbors on, I think you said it's called Pinewood instead of Dalewood? When you come out, has anyone reached out to them and actually had a conversation?
And I went through my notes as well.
Oh, shoot. I think I'm having technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Everyone's frozen, so I don't know if I don't know what's
I
going
don't
on.
know. I think part of the reach out is supposed to be this letter that was drafted, and we're just waiting on the addresses. That hasn't happened just yet. But again, if I'm reading correctly in this packet, it is being requested of the board to advise what we want to do with the remaining fence contract from 2019, 2020. Dr. Chase, I think I saw your hand up. Oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. So where are we? I mean, we need to make a decision at, do we want to, is there a motion, okay, to use the remaining amount on the fence contract from the 2019, 2020 school year to address the property on Pinewood Drive? Okay, hearing. Okay, hearing none, we move on. Ashley?
No, I was just gonna say we should move on because it sounded like from what Mary said, we're still waiting for survey results anyway, so we couldn't put up a fence right now if we wanted to.
Right.
Okay. I'm just looking through. I don't think I see anything else, Dr. Chase, that says please advise on the board, unless you see something, Dr. Chase.
I'm so frozen.
Okay. So, did we get through contract renewal for WBE Fence Company?
Certainly.
Yes. Okay. Health service contract, Dobbs Ferry UFSD. Health service contract on UFSD of the Terry Towns. PPS contract, Westchester County. Okay. And now we're at our work session approvals. All right. Motion to approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion's carried. Motion to approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Board action items. Motion to approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening.
So moved.
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? I'm sorry, did anyone oppose? Okay, were there any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. New business.
Sure.
Okay, Tracy, you have your hand. Dave, you have a hand. David, go.
As I detailed in an email, I finally received word back from Jonathan Warburg confirming that the house has no historical value. In the process of the conversation, he did recommend to us a piece of curriculum called Max Courage, and I learned that it had to do with his son who died of leukemia, but had in the process of trying to find leukemia donors, he helped a lot of other children. So there's a piece of curriculum called the Max Courage curriculum, and the question is it, especially in the COVID-19 environment, something that would be appropriate and useful, or would it be something that would not be appropriate? And so I'd like the administration to take a look at that sometime over the summer perhaps, and let us know if it's useful or not.
What about the board? Can we get a copy?
Sure, it's on a website. We'll just point you at it. It's maxcourage.org.
Yeah, you know I ain't going on the website, so I guess I won't see it.
I can get you something. maxcourage.org. Okay,
Mr. Warner,
24.
thank you. We
Thank
received an email today, Mr. Warner, and we will take a look at it. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
So we received a petition request from one of our community members on April 28th, I think was the date, specifically asking for a referendum to be added onto the ballot. And I understand, Ivy, please correct me if I'm wrong, that it is just short of the deadline, which I think you said was April 11th.
April 10th.
April 10th, thank you. But I'm assuming that it was handed in late because at the time everything was just canceled. We had no idea when elections or if elections or in budget vote was gonna take place. So since we received the directive from the governor's office, we've received this petition for a referendum with 60 something signatures. I don't know how they got that many signatures in this COVID environment, but clearly a group of our residents would like this type of referendum to be put onto the ballot. And I understand that the only way to address this referendum is for the board to vote at this point now about putting it onto the ballot. Is that accurate, or is there another way?
So I reached out, like I said I would, to our district lawyers. So I do have some feedback from them regarding it. So regarding the proposition, in addition to it being untimely, that there's the belief that this is that it is not a proper, that it is, let me see, I don't believe that it is not a proper topic for a voter proposition. So in order for, because it's not proper, the board would need to reject it by passing a resolution. And I do have language in regards to that resolution.
What is not proper about the topic of creating term limits? Because I mean, I don't know, we're in a public session, so I don't know if the entire public knows what we're talking about. We received a petition for a referendum to be put on our ballot to institute term limits on the Board of Education. And there were several points within the referendum, which I do not have directly in front of me. But what part about the referendum did the lawyer say, Antoinette? Maybe they didn't. I don't know.
He didn't give any specifics about what part, but he said the topic itself is not a proper topic for a voter proposition.
Okay, so how do we address term limits within the Board of Ed?
You know, I'm not sure. I'm guessing, and I guess Terry or David, who's been around longer than all of us, is that something that if the board chose to create policy around it or do something about it, is that in our purview to handle, address something like that?
The only equivalent that I've seen is reducing the number of members of the board. I think that's legitimate, and that can be taken care of via a resolution that then goes to the voters. I know you can do that.
Okay. And oh, so you're saying for this as
We
well
could
as
say
far-
there should only be 5 people on the board. I think it might be possible to do that. We'd have to check and see what the minimum limit is for us.
okay, but as far as term limits,
I've never seen anything tried on term limits before.
All right, Terry, I'm
Totally new
sorry.
ground.
I believe term limits are a SED or state initiative, not initiative, but has to be done by the state or by the state education department. I know it came up at a West Putt meeting a while ago, or it has been something that somebody had put on the ballot for to be decided at the the State School Board Association, and it was determined, I believe, that it is something that has to be done at the state level. But what I would suggest is ask the attorney, and maybe that's what they were saying when they said it was not I forget the exact word you used, a proper issue. But I think it's because of that. But just have them define what they mean.
All right. Thank you.
Is there any way to get an answer for that tonight? Because I understand that if there is an issue that we need to address it, there's a time issue with the legal notice and all of that. Is there any way to get an answer?
Well, the time issue already passed for this anyway. So the time issue itself already passed. I sent, as you guys are talking, I sent Larry a text. It is 11:32, so I don't believe we may not get a response at this time, but this will be something that we'll have to take up at a later time. Okay. Does anyone have any other new business?
No, I'd just like to make a comment on the issue that we were just speaking. I do believe that we really need to get some information, if our lawyers can, from the state ed department to find out what if that could possibly happen. And I think we need to get that settled right away, because that came from the community. It didn't really come from a board member. It came from the community in a petition, and they should actually know whether or not they're able to do this. Maybe we can do it let them know as soon as possible.
Yes, I've reached out. So again, it's late, so I'm just assuming that he might be sleeping in his bed like many of us probably want to be as well. Tanya?
Yeah, so I just want to finish off this conversation and start a new one, which is that I am very curious to know about this issue. So if we could get an answer ASAP, that would be great. What I wanted to bring up was the budget discussion. So it's now 11:34. I don't think this is the right time to have it unless everyone wants to have it now. So I was wondering if we should either have a special meeting to discuss the budget, or if we should have a fiscal committee meeting. We were talking about this earlier today, again, to discuss the budget with the community. I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on that, but I think we need to do it.
Let's take a look at when people would be available to have this discussion. Tracy.
I know the superintendent did ask earlier for some feedback. I just wanted to give 2 pieces of feedback from me. I'm fine with having a special meeting, but I do think there's other things we also have to have special meetings on. So I don't know if we'll be able to address that. So from me, I definitely would like us to look at any type of raise in freezes for our budget, as well as looking at the possibility of having, as I was trying to explain earlier, kind of a dual budget, a budget for a COVID environment. If, we don't have a crystal ball, but if there is school opening in the COVID environment with children at home, and how that would look financially, or if you're going to do some other sort of phase in or alternating budget, just have some options so that we can see how things would look either way available for us. So that's my two requests.
I think the superintendent really wanted to hear from the community what was important and less important. So
again,
should
I think we should be talking
we
about
do it now? Yes, I think so.
Okay.
But did you? I thought she asked for us to give maybe it's late, so maybe I'm getting confused. But I thought
she did. But okay.
So what she would like, and thank you all. I know that it is 11:37. I'm not sure how many of our community members are still up to watch this. One of the things that I would like, if we could continue this conversation, and I am asking for an additional meeting, and we attempted to convene an emergency fiscal planning meeting today, but realizing that, by trying to convene that meeting, that was not possible for a variety of reasons. But we thank those members for their willingness. Today, we discussed further reductions, and we discussed further decreases. And we would like to have a more robust conversation where our community is wide awake and we can take notes and continue to ask questions. But I do want to make everyone aware that time is of essence, and it really should happen sooner than later. And I know that we've been having special meetings pretty much every week, but I think that, the governor has put a monkey wrench in this whole budget process. And so I think that there are some things that we do need to act quickly on. And I know that the community is very curious as to what our new thoughts are based on their sentiments, and they are waiting for some feedback from us. And I want to be able to let our community know that we hear them and that we're taking all their thoughts into consideration.
Thank you. So
Please.
today is Tuesday. So I would say in order for us to get notice and everything, we are working with, I think we should work within next week. We have Monday, the 11th. Is that an issue for anyone? Is it too soon for anyone if they have something going on in their schedule?
Good.
Is anybody not good? Let me ask that.
Oh, can I ask a question? I thought Ivy said that we had to have this put together fairly soon. Is that enough time, Ivy?
No, what you needed to do this evening was adopt the legal notice, which you did.
Yeah.
Just to point out, your legal notice has the public hearing on the budget for May 26th, and the budget has to be available for public consumption 7 days prior to your budget hearing, which would make it May 19th.
Okay, so as long as we make that date, we're fine. Okay.
So anyone against Monday, May 11th?
No, and the meeting is going to be public.
Yes.
And will we be
Yeah.
taking? I can't even speak. I'm so tired. Will we be taking questions and comments from the public, or will it be an emailed situation like our public comments?
I have my thoughts, but Dr. Chase, you go ahead.
I also have thoughts too, and I think that there is an email address out there, budget202021@greenbergcsd.org. We're going to encourage the community to continue to use that, and we'll compile all of the questions, bring them to that meeting, and be able to answer. That's a suggestion that I have, so that we can just streamline the questions and make sure that everyone's voice is heard.
That is my suggestion as well.
Okay.
So is it okay, Madam President, if I repeat that email address? In
Yes,
case there
please.
are like 3 people who are up listening, and at least they can share that with others. So the email address is budget, 202021. So it's budget 2020-2021 at greenbergcsd.org.
I suppose they can always just email iView, I think, which is something that they know they can always do. So she can forward.
That's an option, but I have to tell you, there are people who are using the budget 2020-2021 email address.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's alive and well, and it's on our main page with the budget. So, you know, I want to stay consistent. So they can email us. Sometimes they email us directly too. So that's fine.
So Monday, May 11th, 6:30. Okay. Wait, I heard somebody say 6 o'clock.
I whispered 6 o'clock.
Anybody against 6 o'clock?
I'm against 6 o'clock.
You are against all 6 o'clock? Okay.
I am against 6 o'clock. I was going to ask for 7, but I guess I'll compromise and do the original 6:30.
All right, 6:30. Yes, 6:30. So Monday, 6:30, we will have this special meeting on the budget. Our community knows budget 2020-21 at greenbergcsd.org, or they can email Ivy. Ivy, if you get any questions, I know you'll do the same like you did today, and you'll compile them up. I will say this. We are asking, or I would like to ask, if those questions, Dr. Chase, if we stop questions on Sunday, or do you want to take questions up? I'm trying to think about the time frame, you know, the day that can be busy, and then also the time frame of if we're still getting questions on Monday. Do you want, are you okay with Sunday by a certain time? What's your thoughts?
We've been open with the community. I want them to ask their questions as they see fit. So if they ask questions as late as Monday, 12 o'clock, we'll be checking those emails to make sure that we answer their questions. We're
Monday, 12 o'clock, community, please have your emails in there. Who's with Tracy?
Antoinette, I'm waving, yes. I really take exception, and I have concern about the fact that we're not having a meeting where the public can actually verbally ask us questions, and I'm wondering why we're not considering that option.
Okay, so let me say, for me, this allows for the community to reach out to provide a plethora of questions, and for the superintendent or her team, sometimes we answer as well, has enough opportunity to respond, to gather the information to have those questions. I am also thinking about what other boards are doing. Many boards, the majority of the boards, are taking questions prior to meetings and not taking live questions. My preference, not live, my preference is please email, please reach out, please call, and send your questions so that we can have them in advance and we can be able to have prepared responses and not miss anything at all.
There are some boards that are.
This is also I can't even count how many times we've had a special meeting. I'd like for us to just have a meeting that is succinct as possible and efficient so that we can do the business of the school district, still be able to provide public feedback, but also keep in mind that we are meeting multiple times a day, not just with the school district, but within our employment as well. So we also need a little bit of TLC to ourselves as well.
Thank you.
So there are some districts that are doing live meetings with their community. And we do have some community members that were quite committed to coming to our community meetings and speaking up. We do have community members that are emailing us, that is true. But I'm wondering if we want to at least have one meeting where the community is able to actually participate in the meeting and not just watching us, but actually see other community members asking us questions directly. You're right, we have been having a lot of meetings. This is, I don't know, maybe our 6th meeting on the Zoom board meeting, or board and special meetings, maybe more. But yeah, but out of all of those meetings, we've not had not one public, live public comment section. So we're always, we're at 100% for making our public send emailed questions as opposed to letting them speak. And I just want to make sure that we're, you know, giving options. So I would prefer, you know, that we at least have one budget meeting. And since we've gone to this online platform post COVID-19 crisis, we have at least one meeting, and it sounds like the next meeting is the only time we can before the deadline, where we're able to actually hear from the public.
I think the schedule that, I forgot what date Ivy said that we will also have a budget hearing. Is it possible for us
26th.
the 26th? We can, that is open for that as well.
We could
So
do that.
can we commit to either the next meeting or the 26th, having live comments from our public?
We need to discuss. I'm open to the 26th. I think we need to discuss what that looks like. How much time?
No.
Yeah, that's in my mind. Dr.
That, or
Chase,
we can have a fiscal planning meeting after the next budget meeting.
Dr. Chase?
So I'm proposing that we have a fiscal planning meeting before the May 11th meeting. I don't know if that'll work for everyone, but I think we could probably squeeze it in, Mary, maybe Friday during the day if people are available, if the committee is available. At least we'll have that ahead of time. I know that, you know, you were eager to meet with the fiscal planning committee as part of their due diligence to this process. I also want to share with the board, I want to ask the board a question. What we discussed earlier today in terms of further considerations to the budget, is that something that we would like to post for feedback from the community? Or do we want to have the meeting Monday, and then whatever comes out of that meeting, we post immediately? I'm just trying to get some clarity as to when are we going to get community feedback, because currently people see the last budget on our website. That's what they're looking at. If we're making further considerations, I don't want people to comment on what they currently see if we're making further considerations. So are we putting out what we discussed for further considerations, or are we going to wait until Monday and then make a decision to post? I just want the questions to be based on the
Yeah,
consideration.
I get that too. So if on Monday we will, this is just my opinion, if on Monday we'll be making possible additional changes, then I say no, you know, then no, then we should just share it. If we're not, then we share it as soon as possible.
Share it.
I think that
Needs to be up
it's
there.
probably best to post the version that we discussed today, because that's the questions that's what you want questions on, and not the irrelevant version.
All right.
I agree.
So, Madam President, can you just get consensus so that we know exactly what we're doing, please?
So David, you're saying share tomorrow. Say that.
Yep.
Tanya, are you saying share tomorrow?
Yes.
Tracy, I know you are saying that. Terry?
Well, we haven't taken a consensus if we all agree on that budget. So,
That's the other thing. Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong, or?
No, that's why I was saying share it after that meeting, but we have.
Well, why don't we just do that now so we can just.
Well, that's what I was saying. I said, I believe we should share it till after that meeting. And then I had 1, 2, 3, 4 people that said they want to share it on Monday. So is that not consensus?
I'm very confused. The budget that they shared with us tonight.
I said,
Well, let me explain.
that we share it after that meeting if we're going to continue to make changes. David said no now. Tanya said now. You said now, and Miss Carey said now.
So I'm confused. Let me explain why I'm confused. The budget that you presented tonight to us, you're saying we should put that up there now, correct? Or you're asking?
I'm asking, I'm not saying, I'm asking.
Okay.
But
And
we missed a step. We didn't even come to consensus if we agree to it first.
that's what I was confused
Then
about.
if
So
we
now
agree, then we will put it out. But if someone says put it out, it's sort of implying, but I don't want to assume anything.
right. I don't want to assume anything either. That's why Terry brought that up. So now I'm wondering, do we need to take consensus on whether or not we're going to accept what presented tonight first and then take consensus whether or not to put it up for tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to defer to Madam President.
Okay.
Who accepts the budget that was presented tonight? David, Tanya,
I do.
Ashley, Miss Carrie,
Yeah, oh, I lost my phone. There we go. Okay, yeah,
Tracy,
I do.
Terry,
Dr. Chase and Mary, you both did an excellent job presenting this revised budget. However, I cannot support it. Keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
so there's consensus.
We didn't hear from you.
Yes, I accept it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
6.
6, 4, 5, 6. So has accepted what you presented to us. So
Draft 6.
now,
And then is it 4 people that want it up tomorrow?
yes.
Madam President, I don't think we've gotten consensus from everyone whether to post it tomorrow or not. I just ask for clarity for us so that we know what we're doing? Can we just get
One more time.
Yes.
Posting this budget tomorrow. Yes to David. Yes, Tanya. Yes, Tracy. Miss Carrie.
yes.
Ashley.
Yes.
Antoinette. Yes. Terry.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We're clear.
We're
Clear. We're clear. We're just going to issue on board, just for full transparency, we'll issue another statement that reflects new numbers, obviously. And again, we'll still have that that email address available for people to comment. And we'll convene Monday. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, and Ivy, on the web clock, I guess you on the web calendar, I guess can you put the links to the for the special meeting, of course, but can you put the links to the budget questions? Is that possible to happen?
I'll work with Laser on that.
Yes, okay.
And Mary, did Mary still want the fiscal committee to meet, or is the special meeting sufficient?
Special.
I guess that's up to the board. That would be an opportunity for the community to have a smaller meeting with this and have a Zoom meeting. I mean, I believe I can have a Zoom meeting with multiple people on it.
Do that.
Yeah.
So I have no problem. The only thing I ask is don't have it Friday evening. I have my grandchildren. So.
Well, I have a preference for early morning, as you know, like you.
I could meet you at 6 a.m.
There you go.
Okay. So I'm more than willing.
I don't think that will go over well with most of the community.
Probably not.
Okay, so I'm assuming that David, who's the chair of the
I am the chair.
David.
So I'm assuming that you'll post or do something like that. Just please make sure it's in a time frame.
Yes, I'm going to try for the 3-day notice to make it regular and proper. And I assume that the board has no problem with the expenditure of having somebody type up the minutes.
Yeah, I was raising my hand so I could legitimately talk about that. How much was it, David, that you said?
I think it was $60 an hour. Ivy's right here.
Oh, hi, Ivy. So
Hello.
yeah,
It was, I believe I said it was like $1.25 a minute for the transcription.
So if we have a fiscal committee meeting, that's what I was raising my hand about. It would be capped at 2 hours. Is that what we, or at least a
Sure, we
CEC?
can do that.
I mean, I don't know. I'm asking, what do people want to do?
I think yeah, I think regardless, it's important to cap it, but
Talk,
especially
we
if
can
there's
talk
a
ourselves
cost.
out in 2 hours.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come get our refund from you guys if you go over the 2 hours. All right, is there any other new business?
Do we need to vote on that? Because I think we voted to, or was it a consensus to agree to let David have the CEC meeting? Do we need to do that as well, since we're going to be doing this meeting, or no? I don't know.
I'm sorry, they're all running together, all the meetings. Dr. Chase, and then Tracy, I'll get back to you.
So my question is really for Mr. Warner, if that's okay. Mr. Warner, did you have a date for your CEC meeting? I know you and I have had some conversation before about combining it with the superintendent's tea or dessert,
Good
depending
question.
on what time of day it is.
Well, I assume that we want to have it after the 11th, correct?
That is correct. Or
So
we can
what
do
about
it
the
offline.
14th? What do people think about the 14th?
Well, we can talk offline if you don't mind. Just to no, well, if it's during the day, I can't because I'm on a symposium, so I can't do that on the 14th. That I know for sure.
Okay. Do you want the 12th?
Nope, it's a 2-day women's leadership symposium, so on the 12th and the 14th at 11 o'clock. So unless it's going to be in the evening.
I can do evening.
So then it's a dessert.
How are you getting dessert to people?
We're not going to, there's not going to be dessert. It's
So-
going to be something that looks like this.
Bring your own dessert.
Can I
We'll share them. It'll be your own dessert.
Can I just suggest that with most people, I understand mornings work well for me also, but most people now are either working from home, and if we're talking about parents, they have their kids at home running around, trying to do schoolwork. They're trying to work from home. The evening may work better for most people.
So it was a dessert. So it's BYOD. Bring your own dessert. It is what it is. I don't want anybody to misinterpret the acronym. Bring your own dessert.
So
Mr.
Mary
Warner,
asked that we not do it the
talk
evening the
offline?
15th.
We'll talk offline as to the date, and we'll have Miguel just put a flyer out because it's getting close to midnight.
Yes.
Okay, are we in
And
favor of doing this?
I hear
board
rumblings
approve?
upstairs in my house. So yeah.
So anyone, I'll do the opposite. Anybody opposed to the fiscal committee meeting
After the 11th.
after the 11th? Okay, I don't hear anyone opposed, so we have consensus on that. Is there any other business at this hour?
Please no.
All right.
Midnight.
Can we get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I second.
I got a second. Is there anyone opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Progress.
Well done.
Have a
Happy
good.
Mother's Day to all the moms.
Oh yes, Miss Carrie,
Happy
you got
Mother's
that
Day.
right.